I am Anna Reed, 46, oldest daughter, married, 2 kids in college. I live 20 miles from my mother. My father, Richard, died on a Thursday. Heart. Quiet. The kind of quiet that swallows the room and leaves the clock loud. We buried him on a Sunday. The flags at the cemetery pulled straight in the wind. My mother wore navy. My stepfather, Gordon, held an umbrella over her hair. My stepmother, Linda, stood at the edge. She dabbed her eyes. She patted my arm as if smoothing a wrinkle. At home, casseroles lined the counter. Church people left Tupperware like offerings. Neighbors came and went. I carried my father's blue folder to the dining table. The label was in block letters. Survivor benefits. His writing. Careful. Square. He had told me, bottom drawer, blue folder, when the time comes. I had said, I know. He had said, say it back. I did. I set the folder down. I set his watch next to it. The second hand swept steady. The smell in the house was coffee and lilies. Someone had propped his jacket on a chair back. A suit jacket. The sleeves hung still. My sister-in-law walked past and brushed the cuff with her knuckle. She said to my brother, "It's just clothes." She said it soft, like a tip. Like we were hoarding grief the wrong way. I stood there longer than I should have. My phone buzzed. A text. The bank. Plain text. No apology. Your signal has been received. Then, request to reset debit pin initiated. A timestamp. 0942. Monday. The morning after we put him in the ground, I stared. I read it again. Your signal has been received. My husband looked over. He said my name, but not a question. I held the phone up. He said, maybe a system lag. I said, Dad isn't signaling anything. I turned the phone face down. The screen left a ghost rectangle on the table. I opened the blue folder. Inside, policy numbers, old letters, copies of his life insurance election from the shipyard, pages crisp, corners square. A sticky note in his hand. Even split AMJ. 3 kids, no spouse listed. Dated a year ago, a copy of his will. He had left personal items to my mother. He had added a line to cover Linda. It said, household items already gifted. Not money, not accounts. He had written, treat each other kindly. He had written, no auctions. He had written, no spectacle. I ran my finger under the words like a child learning to read. The paper cut the edge of my finger. A clean sting. I pressed the cut to my sleeve. My brother Mark took a plate into the den. Sports murmured from the TV. My sister-in-law Carrie arranged forks. She caught my eye. You'll handle the paperwork, she said. He always wanted you on that. I said yes. She nodded, thin. And, look, you know Linda was there at the end. More than us. So? She didn't finish the sentence. She slid the last fork into place. Just clothes, she said again as she passed the jacket. I heard the words like chalk on slate. I filed them where I file things I cannot answer without breaking something. That night, the house exhaled. The casseroles cooled. My mother went to bed early. Gordon watched her door. Linda lingered by the doorway with a Tupperware in both hands. That blue folder, she said like a weather comment. Good he was organized. He talked to me about it. He wanted it simple. He was simple, I said. I kept my voice even. She smiled. It flashed and was gone. At 8 a.m. Monday, I drove to my father's branch. The lobby smelled like disinfectant and plastic plants. Fluorescent light washed the counters pale. A man in a light tie came forward. Name tag, David, branch manager. He recognized my face from the obituary photo. He put a hand on the counter. I'm sorry for your loss, he said. He meant it. I showed him the text. 0942, PIN reset request. Your signal has been received. He frowned. He checked the screen. He asked for my father's name and last 4. He looked at his monitor. The hum of the printers lifted and fell like bugs at the edge of a lake. "Mrs. Reed," he said, "the request went through the kiosk. We have a kiosk here. We also have an ATM outside. Both have cameras." He tapped a key. He read, "The request was at an off-site ATM, Route 17 gas station, 0942, Monday." "My father died Thursday," I said. "We buried him yesterday." He nodded. He didn't look at the ceiling. He didn't ask if I was sure. He said, "I understand." He printed a record. He slid it to me. "This is a branch-generated record of the timestamp. The images take a request. You can file it with corporate. I can confirm in writing that a reset occurred at that time from that location." "That helps?" I said. I put the paper into the blue folder. He kept his voice low. "If there is a will, and if there is any question of authority, you may want to make calls today." He didn't say lawyer. He didn't say fraud. He said, "Make calls today." At 0951, my phone vibrated again. Insurance company, an email. "Your document to change beneficiary has been received." The subject line was bright in the inbox. The sender line had the company's name. I clicked it with a thumb that didn't feel like mine. Inside, "Dear Mr. Reed, your beneficiary update package was uploaded at 10:15 a.m. A link to track status." I did not click the link. I printed the email on the branch printer. The paper slid out warm, smelling of toner. "Your signal has been received." The same phrase, robotic, cheerful, efficient. "Who filled this out?" I asked the screen. The screen did not answer. I called the insurance line. I waited. The hold music was a flute that never stopped. When a woman answered, I read the policy number. I said, "My father passed on Thursday. I am the executor named in his will. I received a confirmation that someone uploaded a beneficiary change this morning. Can you tell me who scheduled that upload?" I kept my voice flat. My hands were steady on the counter. The manager stood nearby. He looked busy. He was not far. The woman said, "I'm sorry for your loss." She said the phrase that way. People are trained to say it. It still helped. She typed. The submission came from a customer portal. IP address matches a local provider. The name on the upload account is Linda Reed. She said the last name and paused, careful. "The package is under review. It is not finalized." "What does the package say?" I asked. "I can't read content without a release," she said. "But the form is standard. It would designate a new beneficiary or update the percentage." She hesitated. "There's also a note, time-stamped, that the insured is incapacitated and that this was delayed until after medical treatment completed." I said, "He is no longer in treatment." She said softly, "I understand." I thanked her. I hung up. The branch manager met my eyes. "We can preserve footage for law enforcement or a subpoena," he said. "I can also give you the corporate email for the footage request, as the executor." He wrote it down on a card. He printed the timestamp receipt with a seal. He stamped the page. The rubber stamp thunked against the counter. The seal ink smelled sharp, like school supplies on the first day. I left with a stack. The folder felt heavier than its weight. Outside, the air bit cold. The sky was colorless. I sat in the car and watched the gas station across the street. People pulled up, paid, left. Someone wiped a windshield with their sleeve. Everyday life, indifferent. At home, my mother sat at the kitchen table with her hands around a cup. The cup was empty. Gordon hovered. He met me in the hall. "She slept none," he said. "Don't tell her bad news yet." I nodded. I set the folder down. My mother's eyes lifted. They were clear. "Well," she said, "was it a computer burp?" She still used words like that, homey words sprinkled over hard ground. "No," I said. I pulled out the stamped page. I told the story straight. She didn't interrupt. Her face became still, the way a lake freezes overnight. She said, "Linda." One word, not a question. Gordon put a hand on her shoulder. She moved her shoulder away a half inch. He took his hand back. He looked at me. "This will turn ugly," he said. "We don't do ugly." I said, "We do clear." My brother came by. He had stubble and red eyes. He leaned against the doorframe. His wife, Carrie, stayed in the car. He listened. He rubbed his jaw. "Maybe we just let it go," he said. "She took care of him at the end. She sat with him at chemo. We didn't. Maybe that counts." "It counts," I said. "But not like this." I set the old beneficiary form on the table. My father's signature was strong in black ink. The date from last year. 3 names, even shares. On the new package, I had only the timestamp email. No content. Yet. Mark stared at the old form. His voice was small. "Dad wrote our names like we were a list for a picnic." He smiled without humor. "You know how he was." I nodded. I did know. He had made lists to quiet the chaos. He had made lists to make promises to the heir and then keep them. Carrie came in. She said nothing at first. Then she saw the old form. Her mouth tightened. "People change their minds when they're dying," she said. "They see who shows up. They see who doesn't." She looked at me when she said it. My mother set her cup down. It clicked on the saucer. "She's not blood," my mother said. Her voice did not rise. "She was kind to him. I was kind to him. That is not the same as buying our children with paper." Gordon breathed in like he might say, "Now, now." He did not say it. The room settled. The lilies in the corner wilted 1 degree more. The smell was thick. I called Linda. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was bright and tired, a smile held in place by pins. "Sweetheart," she said, "I was going to call you. So many forms. Richard wanted me to help tie the loose ends." "Did he ask you to change his beneficiary?" I said. Silence. Then a soft laugh like a cough. "He talked about it. You know how he wanted no fuss. He said you all have families. He said I'm alone." She caught herself. "Not alone alone. You know." "He wrote this last year," I said, "even split his hand. He told me bottom drawer, blue folder. He said, 'Say it back.' I said it back." My voice stayed level. "I got a text this morning. The bank. A pin reset. 0942. I got an email from the insurer. 10:15. Your signal has been received." She exhaled through her nose. "That must be a mistake," she said. "Maybe someone at the office pushed the wrong button." She was searching for a word less mechanical than upload. Her breaths were visible between her words. "I can come by, Anna. We can look at the folder together." "We will have a family meeting," I said. "We will invite an independent person to sit. We will put everything on the table. We will keep it quiet. We will keep it clear." "I don't like the sound of meeting," she said. "It feels punitive." "I like the sound of sunlight," I said. "Tuesday night, 7, at the church where we had the reception. You can bring anything you have. I will bring what I have. We will let the paper talk." She was silent. I added, "If you have nothing to hide, nothing will be hurt." That was not true. Even fairness hurts. I knew that. I said it anyway. She said, "I was with him at the hospital. I held his hand. I cleaned the dishes. I took the calls." "Where were you?" The words were clear. The accusation was old and clean, like a coin handled by many. I let it land. I let it stay. "I was here," I said, "with him. Not every day. Not every hour. But I was here. And I am here now." I heard my own voice and hated it a little. It sounded like a podium. I softened. "Linda, this is not about who sat longest. This is about what is right. What is right is not always what is written," she said. "You know that." "Yes," I said. and what is written is not always what is true. We had found our battlefield. We hung up like people setting down heavy bags. That afternoon, I went to the print shop. The air smelled like hot ink and glue. A woman at the counter wore a name tag that said, Marcia. Her nails were cotton candy pink. She notarizes documents in a little glass box at the back, under a crooked diploma. I asked her if she had notarized a change of beneficiary for my father in the last 2 weeks. She looked at her log. Nope, she said. I know your dad, Navy guy. He notarized here last year, wills and such. Nice signatures, all straight. I would remember if he came back. Ja, she tapped the log. No Richard Reed this month. She squinted. A woman named Linda came in Friday with some papers, but they were general release forms. She asked what was needed to notarize a signature when the signer wasn't present. I said, "You can't." She laughed like I had told a joke. I thanked her. I bought a padded mailer I didn't need. I left with the smell of stamp ink in my hair. In the car, I watched messages stack up. Friends, neighbors, old church ladies with condolences like quilt squares. Underneath, 2 from numbers I didn't recognize. Voicemails. I pressed play on speaker. The first was a man, bored. This is a reminder that your beneficiary change request is pending. If you did not initiate this request, please call. The second was a woman, chipper. This is a courtesy call from... I hung up. I drove to the gas station on Route 17. The ATM hummed beside racks of windshield fluid. The pavement was dark with oil. The air smelled like rubber and sugar. Inside, a teenager rang up cigarettes and jerky. A small screen above the coffee pots showed the camera feed from outside. Grainy, wide, people moved through like ghosts. A woman at the register chewed gum with soft clicks. Do you keep recordings? I asked. She shrugged. The company does. She pointed to a sign with a phone number and a warning about card skimmers. I wrote the number down. I bought a bottle of water I did not want. I stood where the camera would see me and raised my hand. I didn't wave. I just let the lens catch the shape of me. It felt like tipping a hat to a judge. At home, I opened my father's desk. Bottom drawer. The blue folder had left a rectangle of dust in the wood. Under it, a small spiral notebook with oil stains. His pocket size, pages with short lists, screws needed, people to call. Call Pastor Tom. Mail mark his jacket. Ask Anna about freezer inventory. The lists stopped mid-page 2 weeks before he died. The last entry was simple. It's just clothes, he had written, then a dash, then nothing. I sat down. The room swam a little. He had heard someone say the words. He had written them down like a pebble he wanted me to find. A warning, a joke, a prayer. I could not tell. I copied the last page. I slid the notebook back where it had been. I stood and went to the closet. His uniform hung there, navy, pressed. I touched the stitched name. Reed. The fabric gave a little. The patches did not. I stood with my fingers on the letters. I whispered nothing. The closet smelled like cedar and dry cleaning fluid. I closed the door. Tuesday morning, I met with a lawyer named James Cole, a friend of a friend, gray hair, quiet suit. He poured coffee and added nothing to it. He listened without blinking. He did not make little noises to fill the air. He took notes in long lines. He asked for copies. He did not give advice I did not ask for. He said, "You are doing the right steps. Collect facts, build a timeline, keep your voice calm." Do I have to be calm? I asked. No, he said. But it helps other people understand you, and you need to be understood right now. He explained gently that changing a beneficiary is not a thing a will overrides. He said, if a valid change exists, it can supersede the intention in the will. He said, if a change is fraudulent or coerced or after death, it will fail. He said, paper plus witnesses beats paper alone. He did not tell me what to do on the internet. He did not say, file a claim. He said, invite the truth into the room and let it walk around. I left with his card. On the back, he had written 4 words in block letters. Eyes, ears, ink, oath. He underlined each once. The lines were straight. I called Mark. Tonight, I said, 7. He said, do we have to? I said, we do. He sighed. Okay. I called my sister June in Arizona. She said she couldn't fly. She said, put me on speaker. I said yes. I called Linda last. She answered and said, I baked a lemon cake, as if we were planning a potluck. I said, bring anything you want people to see. She said, I will bring the truth. I said, good. I will bring the clock. At 5, I ironed a shirt. I heard my father's iron hiss in my head. He had ironed on Sunday nights. Church shirts, crisp. He had taught me how to pull the cloth flat with a palm and test the heat with my cheek, quick, without touching. I pressed the collar. I pressed the sleeves. I laid the shirt over a chair back. My husband watched and said nothing. He put cash in my bag without comment. He put in a small flashlight and a pen. He knew me. He did not try to stop the meeting with reason or fear. He said, your signal has been received. He said it with a small smile. He lifted his eyebrows. I smiled finally without force. Copy, I said. Over and out. We drove to the church. The parking lot gravel popped under our tires. The fellowship hall still had folding tables stacked against the wall. Someone had left a vase of lilies behind. They had gone gummy. I threw them away. I washed my hands at the sink and the water ran cold, then hot, then right. The fluorescent lights hummed. Pastor Tom welcomed us and then stepped back. He said, I will stay if you ask or I will go home. I said, stay, sit at the side, don't talk. He nodded. He understood roles. His job tonight was a clock on the wall, a witness, nothing more. We arranged 6 chairs in a circle, 1 for me, 1 for Linda, 1 for Mark, 1 for Carrie, 1 for my mother, 1 for Gordon. I set the blue folder on a metal chair next to me like a 7th person. June would be on speaker. James Cole had said he would sit in the back if I wanted. I said yes. He came in a wool coat, no tie. He sat near the coffee urn. He did not take out a legal pad. He kept his hands folded. His face was kind, but it did not blink too much. I felt steadier. Linda arrived with a lemon cake in a glass dome. The dome clicked against the counter. She wore a beige coat and a silver bracelet that rang once against the table. A small, delicate ring of sound. She took off her coat and draped it over a chair. She put the cake down. She looked around like she had stepped into the wrong classroom. She saw James. She saw Pastor Tom. Oh, she said, an audience. No, I said, witnesses. She nodded. She sat. She placed a manila envelope on her lap. Her fingers lay flat against it, palms down, like she could hold the paper in place through skin. My mother came with Gordon at her elbow. She sat with her spine straight. She did not look at Linda. She put her purse by her heel. She clasped her hands on her knee. She breathed slow. Mark and Carrie came last. Carrie's mouth was a line. Mark shoved his hands into his pockets and pulled them out again. He sat. He stared at the floor. I cleared my throat. The sound fell and did not bounce. Thank you for coming, I said. I kept my tone level. We are here to look at facts. We will not talk about who loved who more. We will not talk about casseroles. We will not talk about who sat longer by the bed. We will look at paper. We will listen to recordings. We will show a timeline. We will leave with a path. Oh, Pastor Tom sat at the side like furniture. James Cole sat near the coffee with his hands quiet. I put my hand on the blue folder. It was cool. The metal chair under it vibrated a little from the air vent. I could feel it in my palm. I said, I will start. I pulled out the stamped bank printout. I read the line. PIN reset, Monday 0942, off-site ATM Route 17 gas station. I slid it to the center. I pulled out the printed email from the insurer. Upload, 10:15 same morning. From portal and Linda Reed's name. I slid it next to the first page. I took out the old beneficiary form. My father's hand. 3 names. Even split. I laid it next to the others. I did not look up. I arranged the 3 pages like a map. Time, memory. I said, we will go through 4 doors tonight. Eyes, ears, ink, oath. I lifted a finger for each. It felt like teaching Sunday school. It felt like holding back a tide with 4 fingers in a folder. It felt ridiculous, and also like the only thing that made sense. First, I said, eyes. I set my phone between us. I pressed play, a short video. The bank had sent a low-resolution clip, a preview, 30 seconds, a figure at the ATM. The angle was bad. The light was worse. But the bracelet caught the sun and flashed. The coat was beige. The posture was familiar. The timestamp burned in the corner. 0942. Linda went still. Her fingers pressed the manila envelope harder. The skin on the back of her hands looked thin. A vein stood up like a blue wire. That could be anyone, she said, careful. Coats are common. Second, I said, ears. I pressed another button. A voicemail. 1103. Linda's voice hushed and efficient. If anyone asks, say we started last month. Say he asked for this after the hospital. It was his wish. We are just doing what he couldn't do on his own. A chair creaked on the recording. A cup clicked. A breath. Then, your signal has been received. She said it as a joke, trying out the phrase like a hat. A second voice laughed. The recording ended. A hollow space opened in the room. Carrie put a hand on Mark's knee. He didn't move. My mother closed her eyes for a second and opened them again. She looked at Linda. Not hateful, not soft, clear. Linda lifted her chin. Context matters, she said. He talked to me. He did. He asked me to handle this. He said you were all busy. She looked at me. She said, you have your life, your boys, your job. He didn't want to trouble you. I folded my hands. I let the words be air for a moment. Then I said, third ink. I slid the old beneficiary form in front of her. I slid the screenshot of the upload confirmation next to it. My father's signature, I said. Last year, yours, this week. You can bring your package now? She took the manila envelope and opened it with her finger. She pulled out a stack. She held the top page at the corners. Her ring flashed. She put the page down. The change request showed my name crossed out with a thin line. Mark's too. June's too. A single name filled the box. Linda. Her signature flowed across the bottom. The witness line had a name I did not know. The notary stamp looked crisp. Too crisp. Perfectly centered. No pin pressure showed through. A scan more than a mark. James stood, slow like a man getting up from a pew. He walked forward. He did not touch the page. He looked. He asked, "Where did you get this notarized?" She said, "Print shop?" He nodded. He did not say, "I was there today." He kept his eyes on the page. He said, "Fourth will be oath." His voice was even. He stepped back. "I did what he wanted," Linda said. "I did it clean. I followed instructions from the website. It is not a crime to take care of yourself when you have no one." "You have us," my mother said. It was the first time she spoke. "You had us while he was alive. You have us now. But you cannot have what he promised our children." Linda's eyes filled and did not spill. She said, "Promises change when bodies fail." She took a breath through her teeth. "He changed. He asked me to change this. He trusted me." "Then you will have proof," I said. "A witness, a note, a voice, something beyond your word, because my father's word is on this paper." I touched the old form with my finger, lightly, as if it were an animal. The room held still. The heater ticked in the wall. Outside, a car door closed. The sound came thin through the cinder block. I said, "We are going to take a short break." I stood. My legs felt both heavy and light. I went to the sink. I rinsed my hands. The water ran cold, then hot, then right. I looked at myself in the metal paper towel dispenser. My face looked like mine. Older and mine. I pressed a towel to my face and breathed through cotton. I heard my father's voice the way you hear a freight train 3 towns away. Low, steady. "Take your time," he used to say when I rushed. "You'll still get there." When I came back, Linda had taken a fork to the cake dome. She lifted the lid and held it like a shield. She offered a slice to my mother. My mother shook her head. Linda set the dome down. The bracelet on her wrist clinked against the metal table leg, a polite note of silver on steel. Small. Final. I sat. I said, "When we resume, we will move to oath." Mark rubbed his temples. "Do we have to do this here?" he said. "Like a trial?" His voice cracked on the last word. I looked at him. I thought of him at 15, standing in the hallway after our parents split, his backpack heavy with things it had no reason to carry. He had looked at me then and said, "Tell me what to do." I had said, "Take a breath, tie your shoes." He had. He had walked out the door. Now I said, "We will do oath, not a trial, a reckoning, quiet, clear, then we can breathe." He nodded. He dug his thumb into his eyebrow and pressed like a button. I took out the last page in the folder, the notary log copy from Marcia, her careful block letters. No Richard Reed this month. A line about a woman named Linda asking about notarizing without presence. A signature, a seal. I placed it in the light. I folded my hands. I spoke to the table. "Eyes, ears, ink, oath," I said again, like a litany. "We are almost done." I set the notary log beside the lemon cake. The contrast was almost funny. Sugar dome, ink seal. Pastor Tom folded his hands. James Cole glanced once, then let his gaze rest on the middle distance like a steady metronome. "Marcia keeps a log," I said. "She wrote this today. She did not notarize Dad this month. She declined to notarize a signature without the signer present. She remembers a woman named Linda asking how to do it anyway." I did not lift my eyes. I did not push my voice. I let the words take their own seats. Linda's breath shortened. She looked at the record, then at me. "You circled the wagons," she said. "You got people to write what you wanted." "I asked for facts," I said. "The facts came. Your signal has been received." I did not mean the bank text. I meant the way a bell carries, the way a person's choices knock on doors they did not expect to open. James stepped forward 1 pace. He spoke to the room. "What happens next is not thunder," he said. "It is form. The insurer holds the change. The bank preserves the footage. A report is filed to freeze any attempt to move funds until a lawful resolution. The old beneficiary designation stands unless a valid change predates death and meets witness and notary requirements." He looked at Linda. "If you have a witness willing to swear under oath that the change was signed by Richard while alive and aware, you may bring that. If not, it ends here." "Swear," she said. The word sounded too large for her mouth. It bumped against her teeth. "You want me to swear that I did not carry something he wanted because you can't stand the idea he chose me?" I took the spiral notebook from the blue folder. I did not lift it like a flag. I held it like a spoon. "He wrote lists when he wanted to remember a small, important thing," I said. This was his last line. I read, "It's just clothes." I stopped. The dash hung there. Air. Pause. "He wrote that. I don't know what he meant. But you said those words Sunday. Maybe you said them in the kitchen. Maybe he heard them. Maybe he wrote them down because he knew I would find them." I don't know. What I do know is that when people say it's just clothes, they are never talking about clothes. I looked at my mother. She met my eyes. Her face softened 1 degree. Then she closed it again, gently, like a drawer. Carrie pressed her tongue between her teeth. "We're not thieves," she said. "We are not counting casseroles to weigh a man's life." But Linda sat with him. She did. She kept track of meds. She wiped the counter. She took the late calls. That matters. It does, I said. It matters in meals and in time off and in companionship. It does not matter in signatures you write for someone who cannot write. Those are different kinds of matter. Linda spoke to James. "If I withdraw the package, do we stop this? Do we go home?" Her voice was small and sharp, a sewing needle. "Do we have to keep sitting here while she measures me?" James did not answer. He looked at me. He let the family decide family. I exhaled. I picked up the old beneficiary form and placed it back in the folder. "This is what I propose," I said. "I file a notice with the insurer as executor. I ask them to lock the change request as disputed. We wait for the official denial. We move forward with the old form. We create a small fund from the estate for last month caregiving reimbursements with receipts and split oversight among the three of us. We sit once a month for 3 months to settle household items and personal gifts. We do it on paper. We do it clean." Linda stared at the lemon cake. She reached out and pressed the tip of her finger into the icing, a small moon print. She wiped it on a napkin. "He told me he didn't want you to fight," she said. "He said the fights after funerals are worse than funerals." Her voice had gone hoarse, flat. "I thought I could prevent the fight. If the decision was already made, if the paper told you what to do, I thought that would stop the heat." "It turned it," I said. "It moved the heat to the table. That's still heat." I softened my tone. "If you withdraw, I will mark that you did so. If you don't, the insurer will likely deny it. Either way, this part ends." She leaned back. She closed her eyes. 2 breaths. She opened them. "I'll withdraw," she said. "I don't have a witness. I don't have a note. I have a conversation in a car with a man who fell asleep between phrases. I have the way his hand felt when he let go of a fork and said he was done with meatloaf for life." She swallowed. "That is not ink." "No," I said, "it isn't." I waited. The room breathed. Mark's shoulders dropped a half-inch. Carrie's jaw loosened. My mother's fingers unclenched. Gordon looked at the floor, and then at the clock, and then at nothing. Pastor Tom stayed a clock, good at clocks. Linda's voice came again, small but neat. "I will call them in the morning," she said. "I will tell them to disregard the upload. I will send an email. I will delete the portal account." She looked at me. "I will bring the login to you so you can confirm." "Thank you," I said. I meant that part. "There is one more thing." She blinked. "More?" "The ATM," I said. "You will sign the form to release the footage to the executor and law enforcement. Not because I am sending anyone to knock, because we are closing the door. We close it well." I slid the bank card with the email address and the form to her. She looked at it. She nodded. James stepped forward. He held out a simple letter he had printed on his way in. A release of footage consent, a paragraph, a line, a place for a name. Linda took the pen he offered. She signed. The silver bracelet slid down her wrist and tapped the table. The sound was little. I felt it in my ribs. We sat in silence. The cake dome fogged a little inside. The heater ticked. The fluorescent hum made a thin line through the air. I pictured the camera at the gas station. Angle bad, light worse, timestamp bright. A person at a machine. I pictured it going back into its box for storage. Sleep. Let it sleep. Pastor Tom stood. "Coffee?" he asked. We all laughed, which was not the same as happiness and not the same as relief. It was the body deciding not to hold its breath to the point of fainting. We poured coffee. It was stale. It was fine. We sat with styrofoam cups and did not toast. We let the heat work. My mother looked at Linda. I would like your help, she said. The room landed on the words like a bench. Not with paper, with the closet. Richard's clothes. We will not say just clothes. We will say Richard's shirts, and we will fold them, and we will decide. Some to the shelter, some to each child. We will leave the uniform. It stays, it watches. Linda nodded. Okay, she said. Her voice was small and naked for the first time. Okay. She wiped her nose with the palm of her hand like a teenager. She put the hand in her lap. She looked ashamed of the gesture, then shrugged at herself. I handed her a tissue. She took it. She said, Thank you. Tomorrow at 10, my mother said, we will say our decisions out loud. We will not whisper in hallways. We will not leave notes on beds. We will say, this shirt goes to Mark. We will say, this hat goes to June. We will say, this jacket goes to the shelter. We will say, this uniform stays. Her voice steadied like a line pulled straight. We will say thank you to each other when we hand a hanger from one set of hands to another. Carrie looked at the ceiling. A single tear slipped down beside her nose. She wiped it with her thumb and then with the heel of her hand, irritated at herself for crying. I can bring boxes, she said, and the good kind of bags, the kind that don't tear. Mark took a breath that sounded like a laugh, apologized for itself. I'll bring the label maker, he said. Dad would have loved a label maker funeral. He would have, I said. I looked down at the spiral notebook in the blue folder. He would have made columns. Linda exhaled, a long shiver leaving the room. I do not want to be the villain in your stories, she said. Not to me, not to anyone, to the air. I wanted to be the person who kept him from worry. She put both hands flat on her knees and pinched the fabric of her pants, smoothing an invisible wrinkle. It doesn't matter. I am the person who went to an ATM at 9:42 the morning after a funeral. I am the person who did not trust you. That is now true. Trust can be rebuilt, my mother said. Not tonight. Later, if you wish. Linda nodded without looking up. We cleaned the table. We left the cake under the dome. We stacked the chairs. The carpet had a coffee stain that looked like a map of a state we had never visited. We walked out into the cold. The sky was just the sky. At home, I put the blue folder back in the bottom drawer. The rectangle of dust welcomed it like a bed. I set my father's watch beside it. The second hand still swept. I listened. It ticked like a tiny metronome for breath. In, out, in, out. At 8:12 the next morning, Linda rang the bell. She carried nothing. She wore the beige coat. The bracelet was gone. Her wrist looked naked. My mother let her in. The three of us stood at the closet. We opened the door. Cedar and dry cleaning fluid. We touched the sleeves. We said names out loud. We folded. We put shirts in boxes. We did not rush. Tell me when you are tired, my mother said. We will stop. We will start again later. Linda nodded. She took a sweater and pressed it to her face. I bought this for him, she said. He said it was too warm. Then he wore it every night by the television. She smiled. It did not ask for anything. It did not apologize. It existed. That was its gift. I took the uniform down and held it by the shoulders. It was heavy with its own dignity. I said, "This stays." My mother said, "Yes." We hung it back up. We closed the door halfway, like a person sleeping. At noon, I checked my email. The insurer had sent a message. Your signal has been received. It was a different message now. Beneficiary change request withdrawn by portal owner. Original designation remains active. There was a line. We extend our condolences. The words were still trained words. They still helped. I sent the email to my siblings. I blind copied James. I did not copy Linda. I printed the email and put it in the folder. Paper told the truth that day. I let it. At 2, a second email came. The bank. Your signal has been received. I smiled. Footage preserved as requested. Consent received. Reference number. I printed that too. The folder thumped when I closed it. A satisfied sound, like a book returning to its shelf. We met again that evening. Same room, fewer chairs, Mark, Carrie, me, my mother. Pastor Tom had a real church thing. James did not come. We didn't need a lawyer for second-day chores. We needed hands. We ate the lemon cake. It tasted like sugar and apology. We talked about seeds. We talked about what to plant in spring in the patch behind the fence. My mother said tomatoes. Carrie said peppers. Mark said he would build the trellis, but he might build it crooked. We said that would be fine. I told them about the spiral notebook. I read the last page. It's just clothes, I said again, and now I put a quiet period in my mouth even if the dash on the page did not have one. We had finished the sentence with our hands. June called on video from Arizona and watched us stack boxes like an auction where no one outbid anyone. She cried, then she laughed at herself for crying. She said, "Keep the hat with the bent brim for me." We did. 3 days later, we went to the shipyard office to return a badge and pick up a last check. The clerk at the window knew our last name. He shook our hands and pulled his mouth to one side. He was old school, the clerk said. Good notes. No drama. He slid an envelope under the glass. I took it. The paper felt like paper, not like a miracle. That was fine. We had stopped shopping for magic. On the way out, we passed the bulletin board by the vending machines. A notice hung crooked with a pushpin. Estate Planning Lunch and Learn. Someone had scrawled in pen under the title. Do it before the drama does it for you. I stared at the scrawl. It looked like my father's writing, and also like every man's writing who had ever gripped a pen tight because he worked with his hands and hated fine tips. I took a picture and then deleted it. I didn't need the picture. I had the message. I mailed copies of the beneficiary confirmation to June. I mailed Mark his set. I put one in Linda's mailbox without a note. She sent me a text. Received. No heart, no emoji, just the word. It was enough. Weeks passed. We met on Sundays after church to close small loops. We made a chart for doctor bills. We kept receipts. We argued about casseroles once, but it was over the best way to freeze them, not who paid for the foil. We set a boundary that felt like a fence with a gate. I handled accounts. Mark handled tools. June handled photos from a distance, naming faces on the back of prints with a felt-tip pen and a shaky Wi-Fi connection. My mother handled what only mothers can, the slow work of remembering without rancor. She did not invite Linda to every Sunday. She invited her to some. When Linda came, she brought salads with too much dill and we ate them anyway. One afternoon, I walked into my father's workshop. The smell of oil and dust and something like old pennies sat low in the air. I found the pegboard with outlines of wrenches drawn in marker. The missing wrench had a note under its outline. Ask Mark. The note was old. I smiled. I took the marker and wrote under it. Ask Mark. Then I added a second line. He has it. He will bring it back. I put the marker down. I touched the edge of the board the way you touch a face in a photo without meaning to. On the way out, I saw the uniform again through the half-open closet. The light from the window fell on the name patch. Reed. It looked like a label anyone could peel. It was not. It was sewn on by a hand that had pricked its thumb a few times to learn the right pressure. Permanent enough for its job. Not permanent enough to stop time. Right in the middle, like most of life. In March, we scattered a few of his ashes under the magnolia at the veterans section where the flags pull straight in the wind. We kept the rest. We did not say why. We did not need to say why. Some things you keep so you can sit down in a month and talk to grief like it is a neighbor. How are you? You ask. Did you sleep? You ask? It tells you nothing. You sit anyway. June flew in for a weekend. We opened a box marked Hats, June. She tried them on. We laughed. We took pictures and we printed them on the bad printer with the thin ink, and it did not matter that the colors were wrong. Linda stood by the window during that visit and looked out at the street. I walked this block every morning, she said. I counted mailboxes. I kept my voice warm and my face kind when I got back, even when he was tired of kindness. She paused. I am not sorry I tried to take care of myself. I am sorry I did it after a funeral and in the dark. She rubbed her wrist where the bracelet had been. I don't wear that anymore. You can wear whatever you want, I said. But if you buy another bracelet, tell us. We will say it looks nice. We will not ask the price. We will not read a meaning into silver that is not there. She breathed out. Okay, she said. Okay. We finished settling the estate in early summer. The insurer mailed the check with a cover letter that did not try to pretend it was more than it was. The three of us deposited our parts. I bought nothing fancy. I fixed the roof. I paid a semester bill. I sent $1,000 to the shelter where we had left 3 of his heavier coats. I marked the gift in honor of a man who kept receipts in coffee tins. The acknowledgement came on thick paper with a small line drawing of a house. I put it in the blue folder and considered the folder closed. On the anniversary of his death, we met at the house. We ate in the yard. We lit citronella candles because Gordon likes his rituals too. He still calls me kiddo sometimes by accident. I let it float past. I don't need the word daughter from his mouth anymore. I have the word daughter from the folder and from the closet and from the bank notary seal. I have the word daughter from the way my mother pressed a blouse and then handed it to me without commentary, because she knew I would wear it to call the insurer, and she knew I would need a collar that would not fold under pressure. After dinner, I stood and told them something simple. The meeting at the church worked, I said. Not because we punished anyone, because we put the truth in a circle and asked it to stay there while we watched. Gordon raised his glass. To circles, he said. Linda smiled at that. She did not drink. She held the rim to her lip like a prop and then set it down. When the sun slid behind the maple, we packed up folding chairs. Mark put the label maker away. Carrie stacked plates with the calm of a person who knows where all the cabinets are without looking. June hugged us each twice. My mother stood on the porch and looked at the sky like she might ask it to turn the stars on a bit early. Before we went inside, Linda touched my arm. Thank you for the way you speak, she said. I don't mean the words. I mean the calm. I looked at her and thought of the first call when she smiled into the phone with pins. I thought of the lemon cake and the manila envelope and the silver bracelet tapping the table like a small bell asking for a check. Calm is not kindness, I said, but sometimes it lets kindness live. She nodded. She let my arm go. Later that night, I lay in bed and listened to the long quiet. Somewhere, a refrigerator purred. The clock ticked. I thought of 0942 the day after the funeral. I thought of a camera angle and a beige coat and a bracelet catching weak morning sun. I thought of the phrase that had chased us for a week. Your signal has been received. I turned the words over. They were not a threat. They were not a comfort. They were a mechanism, a line from a machine. We had turned them into something else. We had received the signal from the truth. We had answered. If you have been here, if a funeral cracked a ledger open and a hand reached in, know this. I see you. If you stood in a fellowship hall with fluorescent lights and a stale coffee urn and laid out paper like slices of bread, I see you. If you are the one who made the call at 8 a.m. and asked a stranger to hold a camera clip for a truth you did not want to watch, I see you. Ask me where you're watching from. Tell me your city. Tell me how your family handles closets and promises. Write I see you in the comments if you've had to protect a parent's dignity and your own boundaries in the same breath. And if you want more quiet reckonings, more steady outcomes, subscribe. It helps the people who are still carrying folders to know where to find a table.